Hi, and welcome to the Changing Perspectives podcast, the show where we discuss a variety of topics, including grief, parenting, pop culture, and relationships. Join us and explore a number of changing perspectives. We're your hosts, Jenni and Josh Brennan. Well, hi, Jenni.
Hi.
What's going on?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Pandemic, all that stuff.
A little bit. Welcome to episode 65, everybody, and welcome back, Jenni. I'm not quite entirely sure where we are right now. I can't really. Are we really in the studio recording?
Yeah, we are. I mean, I'm
doing?
I'm balancing the checkbook while we're recording because I have to multitask all the time.
But let's not do that right now, though.
Okay.
Let's put that away.
Okay.
Excellent. Welcome back to the studio, episode 65, everybody. Changing Perspectives has been on hiatus, sort of our second in our history. We took a little hiatus last year in 2019 and didn't expect to take that hiatus and didn't actually really expect or plan this little hiatus either. But I'm pumped to be back in the studio with you, Jenni, talking to everybody. So much has happened in the world. It's a crazy world, individually for us and our family, and how we managed working in and dealing with the pandemic. Last time we were hanging out with everybody, I think we did a Tiger King review.
Was that our last episode?
That might have been our last episode.
That was like a lifetime ago.
We did a fair amount of quarantine-based episodes. Hope everybody enjoyed.
And then we were I think we did a fair amount of quarantine-based episodes at the beginning, sort of in preparation for it. Yeah. And then it just kept going, the quarantine. And your work picked up and my work picked up. And so luckily, financially we've been fine during the pandemic.
Yes, we're very lucky.
Right. But we have been extremely busy work-wise. And so we were just in it.
We were just talking last night about how we have since March, I've only taken one actual day off.
Like one work day off?
One work day off.
I've only taken two. But one of those I still taught. So they were both Mondays. I think they were both were there 2 Monday holidays? Yeah, there was Memorial Day.
Yep.
And Patriots Day, which is a holiday here in Massachusetts.
I feel like I worked on that day, though.
I think I took it off. But the Memorial Day one I was still teaching, or one of those I was still teaching on. So it was only like 1.5 actual days off. And
we, during this time, we're focusing on family, taking care of our boys, helping them with school. And when we trying our best to help them with school, and I hope that everybody got out of the school year just fine, and the kids are excited to be in the summer now. But for us too, a lot of self-care, family self-care, I think happened over the past couple months in lieu of doing the show together. One of those things is we built an island.
Yeah, I wouldn't say self-care because I feel like I haven't been doing a great job with self-care. But
individual self-care, no. I don't want to talk a little bit more about that because, spoiler alert, you have been killing it in the social media game for Changing Perspectives over the past month or so. I wanted to shout you out for that and thank you because it's keeping the Changing Perspectives in the zeitgeist. So thank you in lieu of doing the show. And you had a post recently about rest, and I wanted to talk about that. But anyway, I think individually self-care, we both have not been doing a great job with that. But family self-care, I feel like we've been trying our best to take care of our family, and maybe not so much our family, but our family's surroundings.
Maybe you're right.
Improve, notice things that we wanted to change or improve or add, and we've been doing that. I think that's, we've accomplished a lot.
Right.
So tell everybody what we did a construction project with Jackson.
Well, I think this started at the very, very beginning of quarantine.
It did.
So months and months ago, and I said I had been wanting a new table for our kitchen for a while. I wanted like a sort of like a pub table, like a higher table in our kitchen, just to sort of change it up. And so quarantine started, and so I was doing a lot of like online shopping research, and I couldn't find anything that I liked, but I came across this like picture of a island table, not like island, like the Caribbean.
Yeah. I forgot this started out as a table.
Yeah. And I couldn't find it anywhere. I saw it in like a picture on Pinterest, but I couldn't find it anywhere. And then Jackson was like, well, let's just build one. And I was like, no, we can't do that. That's silly. And then he was like, but why not? And so we Googled it and realized that we could build it.
Yeah.
And so we designed an island. And listen, no one's going to come in who's like a master woodworker and be like, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And our 3 butcher blocks are,
Excuse me.
There's some flaws,
Yeah.
and things that we learned, but we now have this very large island in our kitchen.
And I love it.
It's not a permanent island. It is movable. So we do not have it. We did not run electricity into it. So
no, we did not.
Not an official island, not up to code if it were an official island. But
it's basically a big furniture piece that we can move around.
But it allows us to like hang out in the kitchen, and it became school zone, right?
Yeah.
So it like
it's
gave
where
us
I
more
work
room.
when I work from home.
When you work, you were able to set up like 2 monitors there.
Yep.
When the boys were doing schoolwork, the 4 of us would be able to all sit there with all of our laptops and all of our stuff. And so it really became like this centralized family area.
Yeah.
And we have expanded, I think probably 2/3 of the way through quarantine, we realized we were really, really lonely. And so we expanded our circle. At the very beginning of this, we talked about how like we should quarantine when quarantine wasn't even happening.
Yes.
It was just sort of a maybe. We were like, we should quarantine with the Cliffords, with my sister and her family. Because we all used to live in the same house. They were on one side of the duplex. We were on the other.
And we, before that, lived in the same apartment complex.
That's right. So
very close.
If we had been living in the same duplex, they would have been part of our quarantine circle. So finally, 2/3 of the way through, we said, let's just include each other in our circle.
Yeah.
Because aside from you and my brother-in-law, the rest of us don't go anywhere, like not to any offices, not into any buildings, nowhere. And so they've been coming over once a week on the weekend, and the 4 adults like hang out around the island. Yeah. And it's quite lovely. So it's become this sort of centralized piece in our family. So I guess you're right that was some family self-care. And then we expanded it to the backyard. Yes. Because our backyard, when we bought this house 6 years ago, the woman who owned it before us, 7 years?
8.
Oh, wow. Wow, really?
We just passed 8 years.
No way.
Like last month.
All our appliances are going to die.
I know.
Now that we said that. The woman who lived here did beautiful landscaping work, and then
like excellent, high level, professional level, like landscape.
Yeah, beautiful,
like
and it's
design,
but requires a lot of work to keep up with it, and we have not been doing a good job with that because of sports. We just didn't have the time. So as quarantine led into spring, and now summer, we decided that we had time and we could afford, since we had 2 vacations canceled, to invest some money into the landscaping. So our yard looks really quite lovely.
A lot of work.
I'm not embarrassed by it anymore. Yeah. And we installed a patio all by ourselves, like a patio
400 square foot extension
project, which also started as like, hey, that little extension we did a few years ago with just some
needs updating
rocks. Could we just bump that out a little bit? And then suddenly it became 400 square feet with pavers and pea gravel and patio pavers.
But we've added, it looks beautiful. A lot of work. We expanded the fire pit. We added furniture and a ton of outdoor lighting.
Right. So we've created
it really is
spaces,
like a little, I don't know, oasis out there.
Yeah, we've created spaces inside and outside for that promote sort of family togetherness.
Yeah.
So those 2 projects took up a whole lot of time. And then the yard, the landscape stuff, you've been really busy with that for the past 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So between work and all of those projects, this has not been great for someone like myself with depression and anxiety. So I have not been in a great mental headspace place.
Well, yeah, and that's been, I know that, and I'm sure that a lot of other people, a lot of our listeners can relate to that, Jenny. Feeling those similar things. And I know, personally for me, I've been struggling with getting healthy during this time, working out. I've talked on the show before how I love running, and I haven't been running in a while, but I feel like I'm in a good place now. I think this is getting back on the air with you. I think is indicative of just a good mental health place for me personally, which I think will go hand in hand with putting a focus back on healthy. I definitely put on some quarantine weight, but I will be working on getting that off. And we're supposed to be in Florida this week, but we decided to do a staycation. So this is like day one of our staycation, which is exciting. I'm glad we're kicking it off with being back in the studio. Hope everybody out there is staying safe and healthy all throughout this. I know that me personally had to deal. No, on top of all that is my tooth issues.
Oh, yes. Oh, God. Really? Are we going to talk about these now?
Yes.
Oh, God.
What's wrong with my tooth?
It's been...
I mean, I know what's wrong with my tooth, but what's wrong with me talking about it?
You talked about it incessantly. All the time.
Here's
every
the
single
deal.
day.
It feels better now, actually.
Oh, God.
But here's the deal. This is going to bore people. If you guys want to fast forward, that's fine.
Seriously?
But this is a quarantine-related story.
You had a toothache. You didn't want to go to the dentist at the beginning of quarantine. Dentist shut down. Then you needed a root canal.
You skipped over the best part.
What's the best part?
Well, that's not the best part, but the most serendipitous part, or the ironic part, that's the better phrase, is that it was broken for a while. I had a broken tooth for a few years. The dentist always told me that it was going to start hurting at some point because the nerves would, whatever, started hurting like mid-March. At the beginning of quarantine, when the dentist's offices were like, nope, and it was not really that safe to go to the dentist's office. So I had to. It's ironic. It's a funny little story. I'm better now. Thanks for your care and concern.
No, you're not better. Because today you're like, now my root canal is better, and I'm adjusted to my temporary crown. But now I think I have TMJ.
Listen, people can relate to dental issues. A lot of people have dental issues. Your status post wisdom tooth removal, like 9 years, that was a rough time for you.
I'm not still talking about it today.
People can relate to those stories.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I have a temporary crown now. The tooth was saved, root canal done. Going for my permanent crown in a couple weeks.
I think I'm resentful because that was a lot of money that we just spent for that.
It really was. Out-of-pocket dentist stuff. Mm-hmm. Oh. See, people can relate to that too.
Yeah, dental insurance does not help at all. So we could have gone on vacation. I mean, not really, because there's nowhere to go.
Really.
But
literally, the Florida money is in my mouth now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I guess that's our catch up for everybody with the personal stuff and where we've been and what we've been doing. And,
what's our mustard?
What?
Nothing.
Oh, you're funny. Today, the role of Dad Joker will be played by Jenny.
What are we talking about today? I know nothing.
We were just saying hi to everybody.
Hi.
This might end up being a
what
are those called again?
Filler?
No, the little ones. Pint size.
Oh.
This is how long we've been out of the game for. I forget my own phrase I made up. No, we're excited to be back with you guys. We're hoping to get a few more episodes out to you. I think we can make a commitment to try our best.
I don't want to make... Okay, yeah.
We'll try our
best.
It would be great if we could come out with a one episode a week. When we first started this, we were doing 2 a week. That was very ambitious of us.
Oh, it was a different world.
2 episodes a week.
I think I was probably seeing half the amount of patients I am
right.
now. I don't think I was teaching an active class at that time. I think I was on break. So the world was different.
It was. But I guess what I wanted to do today, in addition to just saying hi to everybody and telling everybody where we've been,
mm-hmm.
is to... Oh, I wanted to shout you out for a huge milestone in your writing career. Listen, episode 65, as everybody knows, I write notes for every episode. And I've had episode 65 sort of written out for weeks now.
Is that what this is?
Yeah.
Oh.
And
was that someone's base football number? Yeah, that was our oldest football. Nope.
60.
Yeah, but then he didn't get 60.
Was he 65?
I think he was 65.
Oh, I don't remember. Oh. Anyway, they've played so many sports. I think they've had lots of numbers, but
not lately.
That's true. But I totally lost my train of thought.
Sorry. 65.
Right off the tracks. Gone.
You have notes.
Yes. So I wrote this. The topic for today's episode changed a bunch of times. We weren't sure what we were going to talk about. But either way, what I wanted to do was shout you out for getting on to Boston.com.
Oh, yeah.
This was a while ago. You wrote it. We talked about the. I think we talked about the blog, the article, and because I had gone to a couple different sites.
Norma Jean's with us.
Hi, Norma Jean. But anyway, a big, huge milestone for you. Something that you should be super proud of, because this podcast was started a year and a half ago, and partly because of and 100% inspired by your writing and the Changing Perspectives blog on your website, jennybrennan.com.
Mm-hmm.
And to see, to know that that's where this started, and then to see you published on a huge publication like that, Boston.com, was really exciting, and you should be proud. I wanted to shout that out.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I'll post a link to Jenny's article on Boston.com in the show notes if you have not already had a chance to read that. I'm one of the lucky ones, I think is the title, right?
Yeah, that was a hard one for me to write too, in terms of vulnerability. And yes, he was 65, not this past year, but the year before.
Oh, okay, nice.
What?
That's funny. That's what you were doing while I was like gushing over you. That's what you were doing.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable for me to be gushed over. Is there food on the floor over there in the corner? Because Norma Jean looks like she's eating something.
Hi, what are you doing?
She's like, I found food over here. Just carry on. That was a hard article to write because it was really vulnerable, and it's interesting that sometimes the ones that are the hardest to write, that are the most vulnerable, the most real, are the ones that sometimes get the most traction and speak to people the most. So, I guess I have been trying to write a little bit more. And I also set a goal for myself to actually finish a book that I was working on a year and a half ago. I wanted to finish it by the time I was 40, and now I'm coming up on 41 in like 2 days.
So the only thing I have to say to that is 2020.
So I'm a little late.
2020 had different plans for you, for everybody.
Yeah. Well, and so did the end of 2019. So my 40th year. This might all be my fault. Maybe when I turn 41 in a few days, it all resets.
I don't know if I've talked about this in an episode before, but I think we were one of our last quarantine-related topics. We talked about how we were looking forward to a trip you and I were going to take in April, because it was sort of like a redo.
Yeah.
Because last year we both turned 40. We started out 2019 at your 40th year, 2019, last year in Florida, celebrating your birthday, and that's when I got sick.
Right. You got this
with a parasite, cyclospora.
Yeah.
And so the entire month I was sick. It ruined your birthday, party.
I wouldn't say it ruined it, but I was also going through some health stuff, getting some diagnoses, getting scheduled for 2 different surgeries. I was in a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort, a lot of kind of other kind of stuff going on. So I'm actually feeling really, really hopeful. So like I turned 40 and everything hit the fan, and it got really tough and dicey. So maybe now that I'm turning 41, it's going to reset. Well, everything will be back, and it'll just disappear. Like it'll just all disappear. Like one day, magically, it'll just be gone.
There was a lot of good things that happened last year,
for sure. But it was a challenging year.
But there was a lot of challenges, and I think that's when it started. It was like your birthday last year.
I know.
Our Florida trip, I got sick, and then all downhill. And then when I turned 40, you were recovering from surgery, and we had a party.
Well, I planned a surprise party. I underestimated the incredible amount of pain I would be in following surgery.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I could have a surprise party 3 days later. Yeah, that wasn't so good. She's really eating something over there.
Norma Jean, come here. I don't even know what it is. I can't. There's not. I cleaned up before we hit record. I don't see anything over there. I did just pull up I pulled a Jenny and did something else while you were talking. I pulled up your article. It says, I'm one of the lucky ones, so why is this still so hard? You can find that on Boston.com. It was published in late April, and I'm going to, again, put the link in the show notes.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah. But let's let's change gears a little bit. And changing perspectives on Facebook. Check out all of our socials. Get reacquainted with us in our podcast. But Jenni has been, like I said earlier, been really killing it in the social media game, sharing lots of great posts and insightful stuff. And I think part of why every day it seems like you have more likes and more follows is because your posts and what you're saying people can relate to, right? You have a nice insight into what everybody's dealing with.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't think it's that. I think that I have been very fortunate that three of my previously published pieces have been picked up by a really wonderful group of women, like a publication that is pretty widely publicized, pretty widely spread. I'm going to withhold the name because they're not scheduled to be released until July and then August. But because I've been picked up by them now and I'm writing for them, now I'm part of their sort of like team. So there's a really lovely Facebook group. And they are incredibly supportive women. And I think that for me, it's reminded me how much I need, for as much of an introvert as I am really social, and need that connection. And so having those women checking in daily and encouraging each other to write and supporting each other's writings has been really inspiring. And so I think that's what I attribute the increase in my writing and the increase in my sharing and the increase in my vulnerability is to that group, because I've got this supportive group of women behind me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited. I feel really fortunate. And there's some other sort of potential partnerships and things that I'm pursuing as well.
That's great.
So, yeah.
Maybe a future podcast guest?
I don't know that I'm ready for guests. That's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
Yeah, like the audio and stuff. It's great.
Our Get Burly episode was great.
It's great. It's great. It's hard. It's hard enough for us to find time to, or I guess to make time to do it. So it's even harder when you're coordinating another person's schedule. So that feels like adding some stuff on. But yes, at some point, yes. So
you had posted, or Changing Perspectives posted, I don't know if this is a meme or a picture. It's like Scrabble letters and it says rest.
Oh, I did that last night. I didn't know you read it.
I read it.
Oh,
yeah.
Thanks. There's this interesting thing that happens because you're also an administrator on my Facebook page. You don't get notifications when I post, so it doesn't like show up on your feed because it's Facebook thinks it's from you.
I have to go look for it.
Maybe I should take you off as an administrator, so I often don't know what and maybe I should change it. I don't know. Never mind.
I still see most of it though.
Okay.
Yeah. You say, do you take your own advice? I don't. I'm really good
at giving advice? Oh, you're reading my article right now.
Yeah. Okay. I'm really good at giving advice, but really bad at practicing what I preach.
Mm-hmm.
That's true, right?
Oh.
What does that look like for you?
What do you mean?
What does it look so? What happens to you in your mind when you're with a patient or you're talking to somebody in a professional setting or a student and you're giving advice? And do you have that like immediate thought like, oh, I should do that too? Or does that happen later?
It happens later because I'm all in. I'm 100% there with them. I'm focused on them and not thinking about myself at all. And it's really not until like those moments where when I write, actually, that's probably when it sinks in, when I'm like, okay, I've committed to, actually making some sort of memes out of my own quotes rather than other people's quotes. And I've committed to posting some new sort of micro, that's sort of a micro, what you're reading right now. It's not like a big article. It's not a link to an article, but it's not a short post. It's sort of like a micro blog on a post. I'm committed to doing that. What am I thinking about? And so that's when I make those connections. Like, I'm laying in this hammock right now after just seeing like 8 patients and preparing for class, and I am empty and I've got nothing, and I'm my tempers are like my patience is really short. I'm exhausted. I'm emotional. Where is this coming from? And I realize like, oh yeah, I'm basically not doing anything that I'm recommending to all of my patients.
Right. And how much do we deserve collectively to rest? Like as a community, as the world.
Well, I think I ended this one with saying you deserve it, but then I also said you need it. So I actually think, right? Is that how I ended that one?
Yep. You deserve it. You need it.
Yeah. Because I think it doesn't matter if we deserve it or not. We all need it.
Right.
Because we do. That's how you sort of refuel yourself, right? Like you can't, I've made this analogy before. You can't, we're like cars. You have to put gas in your car. You have to change the oil. You have to sort of, sometimes the tires wear out. You got to change the tires or rotate the tires.
Yep.
If you don't do that, the car just stops running. If we don't rest and take care of ourselves, we just stop running. And maybe that doesn't mean we break down on the side of the road. Or maybe it does. Maybe it means we spill it. We break a vase and we then like cry about it. I didn't cry about it yesterday though, so I guess I'm okay. I was like, oh, it was a moment where I was like, my elbow is hitting this vase right now and it's going to smash all over the floor and I have no time to clean this up. And it happened. But maybe if you are completely empty, that would cause you to sort of have a really bad day and cry or scream or yell or pick a fight with somebody. So it's not that we deserve it. It doesn't really matter how busy you are. We all need it. And even, those individuals that have been furloughed or laid off or not able to be working, or were not working before. And so their sort of schedule hasn't changed that much, but now their kids are there all the time or their partner's there all the time. Right. They also need rest. We all need to rest.
Absolutely.
And there's this sort of like prevailing kind of feeling in quarantine, like, well, but we're all kind of resting, right? Like, because no one's really going on vacation or going out to dinner. Right. Most people aren't kind of working at the same capacity and going to work all the time. Like everything's slowed down. So aren't we all resting anyways? No, not. Like there's a difference between like, I don't know, working from home or you're parenting your children while your partner's working from home and resting. There's something different than like being furloughed and not being sure when you're going to go back to work and being home and on vacation using vacation time, right? So I've even talked with people who were furloughed or laid off and are now going back to work and saying, use your vacation time, like whether it's a week or a day here or there. And I'm almost always met with like, well, I kind of feel weird doing that because I was just sort of on vacation. Right? It feels weird.
Like I'm about to set my out of office message on my email and I feel weird about it.
You've been working literally around the clock.
I know, but no one else is taking. I know a couple people that are finally taking. Like there's somebody else, actually my coworker who was also sick last year.
Yes.
The two of us take the same week, I think, every year. She's taking the same the week too, but we haven't. You can tell if people work in an office setting with other. I know you don't. You're your own employee. You're only your sole person, but you get a sense of the time off people are taking because you get those automatic replies like I'm out of the office. I'm out of the office. I don't remember the last time I got an out of the office reply from someone.
And I think that's bad.
It's bad.
And that's what I've been saying. So that's a lot of what I've been saying to my patients who are in that situation, is that it's really important to do that. Because what are you going to do? You're going to hold all your time and then everybody's going to magically be able to take vacation in like October, November. And what if there is a surge and we all, or some of us have to kind of go backwards and restrict even more? You might not even be able to save that time. We're halfway through the year.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's your time. Use it. And I know maybe you have been laid off. Maybe you've been working from home, but you still are not disconnected. And I think it's been even harder for people to be disconnected, like to have those lines between work and home. When your 2 or 3 monitors for work are set up on the kitchen island every day, every night. When the white cord, for me, when I'm doing sessions, I have to be hardwired into the internet, and the internet receiver, what do you call that? The router, the modem, is on the other side of the house. And so to be hardwired into it, we have like a 100-foot cable that runs
Cat 5 cable
through the entire house. And I just leave it plugged in Monday through Friday, and then Friday night I unplug it. But so it's this like constant reminder all day, all night, even when I'm not working, that like we're working from home. This is now our we don't have an office space, and it's easier to sort of like be like, well, I'll just send 5 more emails, or what's 1 more session because I'm home anyways. And so I think what people are actually experiencing is that they're working more and they're expending more energy to do that work, and they're being able to disconnect less. So I've been telling people, take breaks. A lot of my patients who were parenting and doing schooling stuff, especially in May, were coming to sessions and they were a mess, and they were a mess about school. And I encouraged them to just stop. Like, it doesn't matter. Right? Like, these are pass-fail grades for their kids, and they're trying to impress the teachers and impress the other kids' parents and things like that. And then when I saw them again a few weeks later and they had done that, they all reported significantly less stress when they gave themselves permission to just kind of not be perfect.
Right.
And to talk to the teachers about it. And none of them had a problem with that.
Right.
These were younger kids. We're not really talking high school kids. But I said all that to patients and encouraged them to take time and encouraged them to set really good boundaries and encouraged them to put their stuff away at the end of the night so that they had home space that didn't look like work. And here I am. I only took 2 days off. I was supposed to be off for an entire week in April, but because we didn't go away, I was like, well, I'll just work because all my patients are stressed, so I want to be here for them. And then I thought about not taking this week off as well because this vacation was also canceled.
Right.
But realized I needed to. So it's not about deserving it. It's about needing it. We all need to. So it really, to me, doesn't matter what your circumstance is. Like, we both work in you work in, and I've worked in hospice. Like, I've been with people at the end of their life. Yeah. Nobody on their literal deathbed, when I'm sitting with them, has ever said, you know what? I wish I took less vacations. I wish I worked more. Yeah. Nobody ever says that. It's always the opposite. And it's hard to see that when you're in it. But regardless of what your situation is, even if you're not working, you still need to rest and disconnect from whatever your responsibilities are. Right. So I think it's harder to give yourself permission to do that in a pandemic.
I'm going to put you on the spot, but how do people do it quickly? Like, what's it like? Let's say quickly? Take the break. Like, what does that look like? Obviously it's going to be individual for the person, but let's say like people aren't in a place, people need a break, but they're not in a place like you and I are to take a week off.
I think you have to. Like? Well, so I've talked to some people who are in pretty significant, like high-powered positions, especially in the medical field right now, right? Yeah. It's Massachusetts has done a really great job, and my patients that are working in the medical field are finally able to sort of breathe a little bit, although they're still all anticipating it getting worse again. I won't get political.
Okay.
But it's about
not in this episode. Maybe a future one.
Maybe a future one. Maybe if I had Prosecco in my tea. It's about speaking up and asking for help and letting people see it, right? Because people are so busy, and you work for an organization. It's very rare that an organization will say to employees like, hey, are you okay? I know things are really crazy right now, and I notice you haven't taken a vacation. Nobody's really taking vacations right now, but I just want to remind you that your vacation time is there, and it's okay to take it. Organizations don't typically do that. And everybody sort of looks like ducks, right? Like gliding gracefully along the water, but underneath their little legs are breathing really, really fast. So it's about speaking up and saying to your boss, your supervisor, your coworkers, and being really open and honest and authentic and say, like, I'm burnt out. Right. I'm stressed. I need a break. How can we make a break happen for me? Rather than waiting for the opportunity to present itself, you have to sort of ask. And that's really hard to do and really uncomfortable. But I was really proud of a patient last week because they did it. And I'd been talking with them for weeks and encouraging them to speak up and ask for help. And the response was always, but no one can do my job. So what are they going to do if I take some time off? And it wasn't until they had a birthday and they tried to take the day off and work kept calling them all day long. That they realized, like, okay, yeah, they're not respecting boundaries, so I have to really set them. And so that person has sort of been able to step into their space and be able to set some more firm boundaries with them. It means like not answering the phone. Like if the vacation day is approved, you're not working. You don't answer your emails. You don't answer your phone. You don't pick up your phone. You really take that space. Because if you don't do it, what's work going to do if you suddenly have a heart attack or you suddenly have like some sort of breakdown and there's no notice? They're going to have to figure it out.
They have to figure it out.
So you have to speak up, I guess, is the long-winded answer to your question.
Speak up.
And ask for help. It's so hard to do.
And I think if you can't take the full week or you can't take extended time, think about what a shorter break means for you. Is
maybe a 3-day weekend? Maybe it means taking a Wednesday off so that you work 2 days and then have a break and then work 2 more days.
Or maybe it's saying no to a meeting, right? Because, back before quarantine, when I was going into the office, I worked early. So I was out of the office by 2:00.
Right.
Commuted home. I was home usually by 3:30. And, but now so before I didn't accept meetings pretty much after 3 or 4 unless I could call in. It was a sort of special, but these days I accept them all the time. I accept these late meetings all the time because I'm home and you're usually working. But maybe the break that you can take is to say no to those meetings.
That's a great idea.
Those late meetings, right? Mm-hmm. If you can't take a day off or a full day, say no to something. Say no to something so you can say yes to something else. Well,
I would say no to something so you can say yes to yourself.
Yeah.
I should write that down. Oh, there will be a meme coming. Remind me
awesome.
of that. Well, you and I were talking about this, right? Because I've noticed that you now have Friday, really kind of like Friday night meetings, and you never used to. And I asked you, like, why is this suddenly happening? And you were like, oh, that's just it works for them. And so I noticed that you don't feel like you can say, like, hey, is there any way to move this meeting earlier? Because we're talking about like a time zone difference. But I think a lot of people fall into that. And a lot of companies are sort of bi-coastal, right? Like they don't all have employees in one time zone. So it gets tricky, but it's okay to say, if you're not comfortable saying no to something so you can say yes to yourself, can you say, is there another option, right? Can you say, like, Friday at 4 doesn't really work for me. Is there something that could work? Something before 4 would work better for me. Is there any way to make that work for you all? And maybe the answer is no, but I think it's worth asking.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard, but it's hard to do that. I've decided to take Mondays off for the summer.
Which is something that you've done before and that's important to you. It
feels harder to do that right now when I'm home. And when the boys don't have, busy sports schedules. And I've also cut back. I'm not working until 8 p.m. at night anymore. And that's hard to do because I know it is easier to give patients more days for options and it's easier to give patients evening options. But we all need to sort of reevaluate our boundaries. And for me, only having the 2 days off isn't enough. And working late nights when I'm also teaching a class until 10:15 at night now. 1 night a week, and that's a lot.
That is a lot.
That's late. I'm old.
But for a little bit, you're doing it twice a week.
I was doing it twice a week, and then I was seeing patients a third night until 8:00 at night.
That's tough.
And then I would have meetings like every 2 or 3 weeks on Thursday nights. So it would be 4 nights in a row that I'd be working late. And it just felt like too much, but it's hard to sort of back yourself out of that, right? And it does mean disappointing people. But at the end of the day, you need to take care of yourself.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
I guess that's what I'm learning through quarantine. And I hope that I can carry this into whatever the sort of future looks like.
That's a great transition because the next thing I wanted to talk about before we ended this episode was another post that you had, micro, was that what it's called?
Uh-huh.
A micro post. You basically talk about what do you remember your life before quarantine? And how do you keep what you learned? So you write, quarantine taught you how to slow down a bit, be in the moment, how to be more selective about with whom and how you spend your free time.
This is my letter to future self.
Your future self.
Yeah.
Quarantine taught you that you can have free time. Please don't forget these lessons and fall back into old patterns. Embrace the quiet. Remember that it's okay to just be. That I would venture to guess that's way easier said than done. How do people begin to think about not falling into old patterns? I know this sounds silly. I'm about to share an example as we sit here and drink our tea and coffee that we made in the house. But I think I know where you're going. I don't think it's a silly example. As things started to open up a little bit in New England and Massachusetts, and I just have to say, and we can talk about this in a different episode. I think that New England and Massachusetts, the community here did a nice job, and I'm in healthcare in this area, so I can see the evidence of COVID dying down. And
you saw the actual numbers of all deaths.
Yeah,
not just COVID deaths, all deaths.
Yeah,
people really were dying at a very, very high rate in the New England area, regardless of whether or not there was any COVID number manipulation.
Regardless of anything. 40 or 50% more people died in New England than normally do in April and May
without surgeries going on, right?
Yes.
So like there were people who have surgeries and then die of complications. Those people were not in the mix at all. So death was really, really, it was real. It was happening. You and I both lived it, breathed it, saw all the evidence.
No death certificates, no diagnoses, taking that all out of the picture. The number of people in New England increased exponentially in April and May.
That died. Yeah.
So that's it.
Okay.
And we saw that. So I see.
I think you're right. I think people, for the most part, here in Massachusetts, followed.
We did it.
Followed guidelines.
We did a great job.
We did a great. Like
it's
they
not
stayed
over,
home.
But
people stayed home.
We did a good job.
Restaurants shut down. It was really great to kind of see the small business owners that had some leeway to be creative about how to still kind of find a way to survive, right? And so I think I know where you're going. Like, so everything shut down. So we stopped Dunkin' Donuts. A daily part of our routine, right? Like we would get iced tea or iced coffee every day. It was part of our weekly budget. And then we realized, okay, we're not going to be able to do that anymore.
Minimize
even though it's
contact.
Open, it was still open during that. And the Dunks lady was like, please still come. But we were really minimizing contact because I'm one of the vulnerable ones. My asthma, it's not really well controlled. If I get sick with a respiratory thing, I get really sick.
You get bronchitis every winter anyway.
Right. So for me, I'm one of the expendable, vulnerable ones. Like, no big deal. If I die, I have an underlying condition, and I'm overweight and not healthy. So, my fault, I guess.
I thought you were going to get political.
So we did pull back. So that meant we made our iced coffee and iced tea at home. Yeah. So we bought an ice maker. So we always have a
coffee budget. Coffee and tea budget switched to making it at home.
Yes.
You get an ice maker. What you just said, it was
but now that you are, I think now that the weather is nicer.
Weather's nicer.
And now that
out and about a little bit more.
Yeah, doctor's appointments. I have some testing from last year that I had to go follow up on and stuff they thought they found and blah blah blah, and everything's okay. But I had more more appointments. You had more appointments with the dentist stuff.
Yep.
So there's been more hey, do you want an iced tea from Dunks?
I'm on the way home. Do you want it? Yeah.
Yeah. And I said that the other day. I was we're starting to spend money on Dunks again.
So
because we've just sort of fallen, and so suddenly you're falling back into that old routine, right?
How do we?
It's being mindful.
Yeah.
It's being mindful and recognizing, if you can't do it in the moment, but recognizing after, oh, we did go to Dunks. We each got an iced tea or an iced coffee most days last week.
Yeah.
Do we really need to do that? Is that really? And I think that's about asking the question, is this something from sort of the pre-quarantine that we want to infuse into our lives or not? Because if not, then we need to make some decisions and stop that sort of habit, right? It's all about habit. It's sort of like pathways in your brain, right? So I always think of our brains as a forest, like a walk in the forest. And if you are going on a hike in a forest, it's probably easier to go down a path that's already been laid out for you, right? You could bring a machete and create a new path and stomp down some trails to create a brand new one, but that's going to take more work, more effort. It's going to be slower. Easier to go down the pathway that's already there. Driving out of our street, taking a left, easy to go down the pathway of just pull in the Dunks drive-through, right?
Yeah.
Then
so easy.
Then saying nah, I'll make sure I have enough coffee at home and I'll brew myself a nice coffee. Or you and Jackson cold brew, which I guess takes 24 hours to make. I don't quite understand that.
It has to brew.
But I feel we need a bigger brewer. It's always an issue. We haven't solved that problem.
When I make coffee at home, I'm making a hot coffee or espresso.
So anyways, so it's about being mindful and recognizing that it's a hard habit to change. So like when the sports stuff start coming out, right? Like the emails like, hey, we can do basketball. Hey, we can do baseball. Do the kids want to hey, we could do football camp. Hey, we could do this. Hey, we could do that.
It's stressful.
It's because it's easy to just be like, oh, great. Like, yeah, this is, it always would have been a yes. But actually sort of pausing and giving yourself a chance to think, right?
Yeah.
For your brain to sort of turn on and say, do I want to go down this path that's already there, or do I want to lay down a new path? And I think one of the things that we've learned in quarantine is that, like, for us, for our boys, they've been okay. Like,
they really have.
They've missed, I would say spring sports are their least favorite sports.
A little more out of shape than they normally would be.
For sure, but spring sports are their least favorite. And so...
now. Used to be Jackson's favorite.
But so it's been okay. Now, if football doesn't happen, which is
for both of
them, their favorite thing ever, I think we're going to be facing a different situation with them. And so I get that other kids, it could be reversed, right? Like lacrosse and baseball, the spring stuff could have been their favorite. But so it's making us realize, like, well, maybe it did really kind of morph into like the sports stuff for them being more about what we think they want.
Well, can you imagine if this happened in 2017 at the end of, or 2018 rather, at the end of Jackson's Little League career?
Yeah, well, we have a friend that's happening to. Yeah, and all that. That would have been sad, and it would have been we would have had a really different sort of emotional experience with him.
Right. We were lucky.
Right. But so I guess, it's recognizing, like, when we get those emails, like, because I got a few of them, and my instinct was like, oh yeah, football camp, they should both do that. And then thinking about it, like, well, but neither of them really want to do that right now. They just want, like, to play football with their actual teams in the fall. And so maybe
football camp is not actual football. It's like a summer camp.
And it's going to be contactless and different, and so it'll be different than regular football camp.
Themed, but it's not like putting on pads and getting out there and playing football.
Mm-hmm.
It's different. I really like what you said about a new path, because I think what the reality is, it's probably going to be a mixture of both, like pre-quarantine and during quarantine. Like I think that, and that's okay to have that be a goal. I think it's okay for us to be like this morning. I could have gone to Dunks easy before we hit record. I probably would have, but we're in a routine to make our own stuff. So we put the tea kettle on. I brew your tea for the iced tea. I put it in my French press. I put the whatever. But probably maybe later or maybe tomorrow, I will do a Dunks trip. So I think in reality, the new path could be a hybrid of the things that you learned during quarantine and then what your life was prior to that.
That won't just happen magically, right? Like it's like the vacations don't just happen magically. It's like the time off from work doesn't just happen magically. Date nights don't just happen magically. I think maybe our Instacart is here because Everett's barking in the other room.
I didn't get a notification, but Everett is barking.
Everett's barking. This is something that
that's Amazon. Amazon's dropping something off.
Yep, that's Amazon.
It's like Amazon Christmas.
Every day. I saw a meme today, like, I don't know who needs to see this, but you do not need to order anything from Amazon today.
That's good. You need to see that.
But I haven't ordered anything frivolously.
No.
Yeah,
no.
You wanted a risotto spoon.
It's not frivolous.
I know, and I'm saying, like, it's not just me that's ordering things, and these are actually things for the boys and their summer reading books, because
good.
I think that's what those are. Because our oldest has to read like 4 or 5, and so I bought copies for him and for myself. So I'm going to read with him as a way to force me to read something.
I'm reading one of them right now. I like it.
Yeah. Okay.
The Most Dangerous Game. If you guys,
so what was I talking
people probably know that book.
I forgot. I just got myself sidetracked.
Amazon derailed us.
Right. It doesn't happen magically. It requires thought. So if you don't think about it, then you're just going to be sucked back into your old habits, your old patterns, and you're going to go right back into your pre-quarantine life. It means sitting down and thinking about it and talking about it and having like a sort of staff meeting with your partner, a family meeting with your family, writing goals down. Like, what are the things we don't want to do? Like, what are the things that we learned that are okay to not have during quarantine? What are the changes that we want to keep? And I think writing it down and putting it somewhere so that you see it, so that your brain, it makes it a little easier for your brain to say, I'm not going to go down that like really easily traveled path. I'm going to start building this new path over here.
I think, and that's where a lot of people are right now. Like thinking about what it's going to be like to come out of quarantine and sort of go back to quote unquote normal. However, I will say, we obviously don't have listeners just in our region, just in the Northeast. We have listeners all over the place. We're lucky to have that. And I know that there are a lot of other places in the country, our country.
And the world.
Well, I was going to say, we'll start with the country.
Oh, sorry.
But that are actually experiencing a surge, a bump. Maybe they didn't close all the way, and they're dealing with issues. So
they should go back and read. They should listen to our other.
Yeah,
you're a few months behind us.
You're a little behind us.
We're your Italy, so
and we want to say that our hearts are with you. But again, I think that could be true of other places in the world as well. But there are a lot of places like us, like Italy, that are on the tail end coming out of this first pandemic, this quarantine. And these are some of the things that it's important to think about and have a conversation with your family or your loved ones.
Right. Yeah. And I think we need to do that as a family too.
I agree.
Yeah. Because it is really easy. And last night we ventured onto a friend's patio, and it was the first time that I've seen anybody
social distancing
socially.
Outside.
It was just it was just us two and them two, and it was and outside. But it was really easy, I noticed, in that space to feel like, oh, all right, it's over, even though I know it's not over.
Yeah.
And really easy to lean into, it's tempting to lean into the belief that it's fake. It's just created by media. It's about the Democrats. This is just fake. It's not a big deal. It's just the flu. Because I missed that, right? I missed that. And I could see on that patio having lots of friends there and just having it be a normal pre-quarantine night with friends. And I could see let's just invite everybody back to our patio. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
It's really easy to go down that road.
Easy.
And so
you see the result, the potentially negative result in the news when people make those types of decisions.
I know. Yeah.
Maybe not so much here in New England, but definitely in other parts of the country.
Yeah. So, my point with that was it's really easy to just get drawn back down those other paths and sort of forget about the lessons that we've learned in our sort of quarantine time.
Right.
So, I don't know. That's what I had to say about that.
Well, we've been talking for almost an hour.
Really?
Believe it or not.
Oh.
Yeah.
I have no idea what else we're going to talk about. Yeah, we should end this one, but I have no idea for future episodes.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We have a topics list, and we'll try to stay current as much as we can. And we generally have stayed away from political type topics on our show, but I think what I'm about to say is.
Oh no! Don't say it then.
I'm going to say it.
Don't say it.
I think it's beyond political now, and it's important to. So I think that Jenny and I will talk about this, and we'll figure out a way to talk about racial inequality.
Oh, okay. Yes.
But because it's hard to talk about it, but you should do it anyway, and changing perspectives will as well. And just Jenny and I feel for the family of George Floyd and everybody that's dealing with a similar situation, and our hearts absolutely go out to his family and all those folks that are dealing with a similar situation. But changing perspectives will talk about racial inequality, and we'll do it in a thoughtful way. But it's important, and I just wanted to recognize it and tell the listeners that we'll absolutely talk about it because we should, and it's important.
Because Black Lives Matter. So I guess we just went political.
Okay, we did. But you know what? We're true, and we try to, no matter what we talk about, we try to incorporate multiple viewpoints as much as we can, and we will try to respect everybody as we normally do. We don't try to alienate anybody to an extent.
Well,
but again, I think that this topic, this subject, is beyond that. It's beyond political.
Gotcha.
So,
right. Okay.
Anyway.
All right. So,
anything else for our listeners today?
No.
Welcome back, Jenny.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you thank you for gently encouraging me to record at first when we weren't recording, you were really pushy about it, and there was a lot of pressure. And I was already feeling a lot of pressure from lots of areas. And so you recognized that. I mean, we had a conversation and you backed off. And so it wasn't pressure. It was just sort of like an open door. And so I think you could recognize over the past couple of weeks that I was getting closer to being ready to record. And so thank you for respecting that and then getting it all set up. And the few other times in the past couple of weeks where I was like ready, but then not.
Yeah.
Thank you for not getting mad at me about that.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's better. I think we have better content when we're both in a good place to do this.
Sure.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, that is going to do it for today. Thank you guys so very much for listening. For today's show notes links, you can check out Jenni's article on Boston.com. I think that's pretty much it for the show notes, but you can follow us on Facebook at Changing Perspectives Podcast. Check out all of Jenni's great posts. Really sort of boost on the social media presence, and I appreciate that. Lots of good stuff to read. And you can find us on Instagram at Changing Perspectives Blog. You can send us an email to changingpodcast@gmail.com. You can also visit our website by going to changingperspectivesblog.com. And while you're there, don't forget to visit the shop to check out all that Changing Perspectives merchandise. I was enjoying my coffee this morning during this recording out of my Changing Perspectives mug, which I love. Go ahead and subscribe, everybody, to the show so you'll never miss an episode. And we will see you next time. Say bye, Jenni.
Bye, Jenni.
Hey everybody, Jenni and I want to tell you guys about Lash Binder.
Yes, Lash Binder was created by celebrity makeup artist and host of the Clean Beauty podcast, Cassandra McClure.
Lash Binder is a lash application tool and method that has changed the lash game forever. Lash Binder makes lash application easier, faster, and even safer than ever before.
And with each Lash Binder sold, Lash Binder will donate one to a cancer patient who has lost her lashes due to chemotherapy. How amazing is that?
That's super amazing.
Lash Binder is available on Amazon and at select boutiques nationwide.
And you can also visit lashbinder.com. And just for our awesome listeners, you can enter the discount code Changing Perspectives at checkout for $5 off your entire order.
That's also super amazing.
Yes, it is. Visit lashbinder.com, everybody. Lash Binder is #1 because anyone can achieve perfect lashes in seconds every time.
The Changing Perspectives podcast is produced, recorded, and edited by Dizzy Bird Studios. Copyright 2020. Please visit Dizzy Bird Studios on Facebook. Facebook.com/Dizzy Bird Studios.